So this is my third video that I'm doing based on my experience of my chemotherapy journey. And in this video, I want to talk about the injections. So the injections were a massive nightmare for me. I hate needles, and this gave me many, sleepless nights panicking about it before I had to start. Now, my husband said he would help. He would do the injecting for me, but the injections, and I had to do 8 for each round of chemotherapy starting on day 3. Your chemo nurse will tell you what you have to do specific to you, but they had to be done at exactly the same time on each day. And unfortunately, with my husband working shifts, that was not going to be possible. And also, when you do the injections, they do cause a little bit of pain a little bit later, because effectively what they're doing is they're making the bone marrow, uh, the bones produce the marrow and help to boost your white blood cell count. So you get pains in your hips and in some of your joints. So it's important that you don't do them too soon before going to bed. So I chose 4 o'clock in the afternoon as being my time to do the injections. And unfortunately, with my husband working shifts, that meant that he would not always be there at 4 o'clock. So it wasn't possible. Um, I could have had a nurse do it for me if I'd put my foot down, but then that would mean having to travel to the hospital every day, or relying on a district nurse. And unfortunately, because um, because of the state the Tory government has put NHS into, sorry, politics there, we can't rely on district nurses, and I certainly wouldn't have been able to expect a district nurse to come out at exactly the same time each day. So I had no choice really but to pull up my big girl pants. So I had to come up with quite a few strategies in order to get these injections done. So what I would do is half an hour before my injection time. So I set some alarms. Basically, I had a 4 o'clock alarm, which would be when I would take the injection out of the fridge, because it needs to come to room temperature for about half an hour. I would also, at that 4 o'clock alarm, that's when I would take 2 ibuprofen and 2 paracetamol. And yes, you can take ibuprofen and paracetamol at the same time. This was not only to help counter the pain that I might feel from an injection, but also it was to help with the effects of the injection, with the production of the white blood cells. I would also at this time take an antihistamine as well, because you can get a bit of an allergy response to the injection. Now, the one I was on was filgrastim, but I do think that there's other ones. It depends on, I think it depends on you, it depends on the chemo you're being given. So mine's based on filgrastim. I would then, to start with, I had some ice cubes that I would just wrap in a paper towel and stick them on the area that I was going to inject. But some friends of mine brought me one of these. It's like a cool bag. That was on a belt, Velcro belt, and that meant that I could have it against my tummy, and it'd be a bigger area that got cooled and numbed. Um, so and so half an hour prior to doing the injection, I would take all the tablets, take the injection out, and put my belt on so that it would be going cold. And then I'd watch YouTube comedy clips. So basically anything that would make me laugh out loud, because what I was wanting to do with the laughing was to like boost my serotonin, but also distract myself, because I didn't want to sit there for half an hour going, gonna have to do the injection, gonna have to do the injection. So I would just watch comedy. So initially, when I first started, I was watching Peter Kay. I think I got through quite a few weeks of chemo watching Peter Kay for days on end. And then towards the end of my journey, I was watching Mickey Flanagan. Now, humour is very different for everyone. So, you know, what works for me won't work for you necessarily. But I loved both of those two comedians, and especially Mickey Flanagan. I thought he was absolutely fantastic, and I would really belly laugh with him. And my husband surprised me actually because I think in September we've got tickets to see him live at the Apollo in September, and I can't wait. I just hope it doesn't trigger any kind of injection PTSD. Um, so when you do the injection, so when then you know at 4:30, which was my injection time, um, they do say to try and go in faster rather than slower. So, I mean, that's easier said than done. But what I just kept saying to myself was, I've had painkillers and my tummy is numb. And lucky for me, I've got quite a bit of excess stomach. So I was able to find a good sort of, you know, inch of flesh. And I found that if I initially when I was doing them, I was standing up in the kitchen and I'd inject myself. But um, then I found that actually, if I brought the injection into the lounge and if I was propped up but got my legs out in front of me, I found that was actually easier to do the injection. So rather than do it standing up. So you get a good kind of pinch of skin, and then at about a 45-degree angle, you put the needle in. Now, when you first look at the needle, it is long, and you think, oh my God. But if you've numbed it with ice, and if you've taken painkillers, I would look to just make sure I was going into the right place, and then I would look away, and then you press the needle down. Um, and and then I would keep hold actually of the skin until the needle had gone, until I'd got all of the filgrastim in, and then it clicks, and you know it's gone as far as it can go, and all the liquid has gone in, and then I would release, and then you obviously prior to injecting, I would wash my hands very carefully, and they give you a little steri wipe. So you just wipe the area, and I'd wipe it afterwards as well. And quite frankly, if I was able to do that and I ended up having to do 64 of these injections, kind of if I can do it, I think anybody can do it, because I really was quite nervous about it. Before you start to take the injections, have a look on YouTube on a video of injecting yourself. With mine being filgrastim, there was a video there that was specific to that. But I think at the end of the day, all the injections are pretty similar, because it is hard to take on board what the nurses are saying to you when you're having your chemo and they're talking to you about things. But I managed 64 of these little bastards, and what I found afterwards was that a cup of tea and a biscuit, or cup of tea and a little piece of cake was lovely. Um, and I took my injections at, you know, started the whole process about 4 o'clock, and had the actual injection at 4:30, um, because it just meant that it wouldn't then interfere with my going to sleep. Um, I did say to take the ibuprofen and paracetamol at the same time, and I definitely recommend that when you're doing the injections, because in the night you can get quite a bit of pain from your joints. But be mindful that you know you try to reduce and decrease that dose once you stop the injection, so that you can try and get back a little bit more to normal. So that's my little video on the injections, and I hope it helps. They are doable. If I can do it, they are doable. All the best.